Hello. Thanks so much to everyone who listened to my last episode on superpowers. I've had some lovely messages to say how much people enjoyed it, which is so good to hear. In fact, people were telling me that they were really starting to think about what it is their superpower was and how they can use it to propel their business forward. So it was fabulous to hear. I really enjoyed receiving all the messages. If you haven't already listened to it, you can go back one episode and it's called Unleash Your Superpowers. You'll find it on the podcast episode list. But thank you. Thanks for taking the time to tell me that you enjoyed it. I was a little nervous recording it as it was the first one that I've done in a few weeks. But apparently you couldn't tell. I think I made a few people laugh with my hospital tales and shenanigans. And I promised you authenticity when I started this podcast, didn't I? And I don't think it can get much more authentic than talking about commodes and flashing your ass for 20-year-old male physios, let's be honest. Or can it? I don't know. Let's see where today's episode takes us, because you never know. So what are we talking about today? Well, it's something that I think a lot of the people listening to my podcast who are following it will be able to relate to. Mainly because most of us are over 40. Well, according to my podcast stats, we are anyway. And because most of the women that I work with fall into this age bracket of like 40 to 60, 65 years old. So I thought it'd be really interesting and hopefully useful to talk about what it's like to start a business later on in life. Why do we do it? What are our motivations, the actual realities of it, the challenges that we face and how we can overcome them so that we don't give up and instead we power through it and we achieve what it is that we've set out to achieve in the first place. Working for ourselves, doing something that we love. And it's something that I've really been thinking about, especially the past few months when I've been setting up my coaching business, a Handmade Hustle. I don't know what it was. But when I turned 40, there was just it's just this big moment for me. Not because I was now 40, because it makes no difference whatsoever, my age, it doesn't bother me. But it was more like a mental thing, like someone had just flipped a switch that said to me, I want more out of my life. I want to be more successful and I want to try something different and use some more of my skill set. And I think Vintage Twee, my stationery business, has served me really well in the past and it will always, always be my first business baby. But I've done it for a long time and I feel ready for a change. And like a lot of us, we lost a lot of business after COVID, which has been really hard to recover from. But also, I had my little girl and things just shifted. My energy depleted. My priorities changed. My goals, well, they were non-existent if I'm honest. I was just wanting to make enough money to pay the bills and that's it. Because, admittedly, as a new mum at 36, I was struggling. And I still am, God. But, for the first 3 years after my daughter was born, I just muddled through. I wasn't able to spend 14 hours a day on my business anymore. And it showed. It showed in my sales. It showed in our bank account. And it even showed in my voice when I talked about it. I just lost my mojo. The thought of closing it made me too sad because I wasn't there yet. I wasn't at that point where I said, I've had enough. It's not that. But I just knew that I felt differently towards it. So it wasn't really until about maybe 3 months before my 40th birthday that I knew what it was that I wanted to do. And that was helping other women like me who have a dream of working for themselves and they just need some help to get it kick-started or take, an existing business to the next level. But you know what it's like, we come up with an idea, we get all excited about it, we start to plan how we're going to take over the world and all that, and then nothing. We just get stuck. The doubts creep in, the fear, the imposter syndrome. Yeah, I get it as well. I've had a really bad case of it in the last few months. And what if I'm not good enough? What if I can't do it? Should I even try? And these feelings were actually really foreign to me because I never felt them when I was younger and I started Vintage Twee in my 20s. I just did it. I just literally got on with it and I hoped for the best and it worked out. I must have had this confidence, I didn't care as much, but I just did it. And I always thought that the older I get, the more confident I would be. And in some ways I am, 100%. I'm not as afraid to speak up to people anymore. I'm not as afraid to say no to the things that I don't want to do because time's precious. I don't like wasting it. I don't have a lot of it. But professionally, it was a totally different story. I kind of feel more anxious than ever about my career. And I don't know about you, but all I want in life is just to be happy, doing something that I love, working for myself, and something that I'm good at as well. But I just think it's so much harder for us to get our heads around it all after the age of 40 for numerous reasons, which I'm going to talk about shortly, which is one of the main reasons that I set up Her Handmade Hustle. Because I get it, I'm kind of back to the beginning again myself. I'm starting a new business, but obviously with a lot of experience to use, and a lot of experience that I can help other women with as well. So why is it so hard that to take that plunge and just believe in ourselves and go it alone later on in life? So I think there's a few things to blame. Firstly, I think confidence levels have a lot to answer for. Now, some of us may have been out of work for a while for various reasons, like kids or family commitments, caring duties, etc., whatever the responsibilities that come with being older that you just don't have in your 20s. I remember when I was in hospital last month that I was speaking to one of the young student nurses, and she was telling me that she was really stressed out because she couldn't decide where to go out that evening. And she had a choice of 2 clubs. And I was lay there. I had drains coming out of each breast, tubes going out of every orifice. I looked like death. Couldn't move my body. I was sobbing inside, wondering how the hell I was going to get to the goddamn toilet. And I remember saying to her, "Oh God, just enjoy being stressed about that." And I was laughing. I didn't begrudge her feeling like that because I'd done it too when I was 21. And the only decision that I ever had to make every Saturday night was whether to go to Tiger or living room for the best dance or chance of meeting Prince Charming. That was it. That was the only decision that I focused on making on a Saturday evening. Turns out neither of those places were good to meet Prince Charming. Anyway, the responsibilities for us are a lot more later on in life. And I think that the risk factor and the impact of failure is just massively increased. If it doesn't work, we've still got bills to pay. We've still got families to feed. We've got an ego to dust off. We seem to take things a little bit more personal, I think, as we get older. I don't know, I might just be speaking for me. It's harder for us to get started in the first place. I think there's a lot more boulders and boundaries in the way for us to actually get off the mark in the first place. And I know a lot of women that I talk to and that I work with are at the stage now where their kids have left home, their responsibilities have decreased, and they actually have the freedom to experiment, but yet their confidence is still low because, naturally they've been out of the game for a long while, or they aren't used to putting themselves first, or maybe they just aren't sure what exactly they are good at anymore or how to go about setting up a business. Confidence is such a major player in the challenges that we face as a 40 plus something woman starting up a new venture. And it's something that I wholeheartedly believe in mastering with all the women that I work with. I mean, you can ask any of my friends, right? They will tell you that I will make them feel like they can do anything, and they usually do. And one thing I read about, which is really good to do to help boost your confidence, and I believe therefore your ability to achieve whatever it is that you want, is to make a success playlist. So I don't know if you've ever done this, but basically it's a playlist of songs. When you put them on, they just give you a real confidence boost. Songs that make you feel so good, ones that you can just sing to in your office, at your kitchen table, wherever your workspace may be, that really make you feel successful. So one of the songs that's on my playlist for success is called Make Way by Aloe Black. If you haven't heard it, stick it in YouTube. It's so good. And it's all about being successful and getting known. And one of my favourite lines in the song is, "I'm hustling, I was born to win, I ain't never gonna change." And I actually got that printed on my diary for 2024, because every single year I have a thing about buying a brand new diary, like we all have diaries, but I make it different every year. I have something about it that's different so that when I keep them all, because I do, I've got a drawer full of them, I can look back at them and say, okay, that was the year this happened, that was the year this happened, and they are all just different. They're all a reflection of me at that point in my life. So on 2024's diary, it has that quote on the front, I'm hustling. I was born to win. I ain't never going to change. And on my 40th birthday, my sister, she organised for us all to go on this family holiday. And we stayed in this beautiful cottage. It was so nice with a hot tub and everything. And on the evening of my, well, actually the night before, so the eve of my 40th birthday, I should say, all the kids were finally in bed. You know, we got the wine out. We were having some snacks. We waited up until midnight so that we could see my birthday in. And when the clock struck 12, and we just celebrated the dawn of this new era, we put that song on, Make Way. And Emma and I, my sister, we danced around the cottage in my pyjamas with a glass of Prosecco in my hand, and I was singing this song at the top of my lungs. Now, I've not done that for a hell of a long time. Just let it all go, just singing. And I did it. And I made a commitment there and then to myself that I've got to put everything I've got into my new business, So Handmade Hustle, and I've got to change my life. You know, and hopefully the lives of lots of other women too. Another song that's on my success playlist is Billionaire by Travie McCoy, featuring Bruno Mars. I really love that song. I've always liked that song. And it's a real like aspirational tune for like big dreamers, you know, because there's nothing wrong with dreaming big and aiming high, even if we don't make it on the billionaire list. You know, let's be realistic. There's nothing wrong with thinking about it. And heads up, if you're going to listen to that one, do it when the kids aren't around. You don't want little ears hearing the lyrics, that's all. But it's a good one. And I love Bruno Mars anyway. He's on a few of my other playlists. I've got a happy playlist, I've got a party playlist, I've got a feel sorry for myself playlist, you name it. Bruno is quite versatile. Anyway, so even though, you know, you're 40 years old, okay, energy is depleted. It is. You know, we're not saying we're writing you off. You're not on the way to retirement, but you don't have as much energy as you did when you were in your 20s. And again, I don't know about you, but for me, I just feel like it seems to deplete with every year, sometimes every month. We've got more health-related issues to deal with, things we wouldn't have had to think twice about in our 20s again. You know, weight gain, a constant battle to keep it off and stay fit and healthy, eating good, exercising, the menopause or maybe the perimenopause, all of which drains our energy, and we've got to learn to navigate it alongside running a business. It's hard. It is so hard. And then add to that no sleep if you've got young kids, and maybe no sleep if you've got older kids as well, because I know that we'll never stop worrying about them, let's be honest. And I just think that everything seems much more of an effort, physically and mentally, when you're older. Yet the urge to do it, the urge to make it happen and start your own business, it doesn't go away. We just need to find ways to manage all these factors so that we can have ample energy left to do what we want to do. If sometimes all I want to do, most of the time actually, is just bugger off to Barbados and sit alone on a beach for at least a week, that's my goal. Or, you know, even a day spa, that'll do, whatever. So why do we do it? Why do we put ourselves through the stress of starting up on our own? You know, surely we're looking for an easier path to go down as we get older, not to make life more difficult. Well, you'd think so, wouldn't you? And I know that some of us are, and that's totally understandable and acceptable too, because it's a lot to take on, mentally, physically. And some people just don't have that kind of responsibility, you know, as they head into their mid-40s. They don't want that kind of responsibility, I should say, as they head into their 40s, 50s, beyond. But then there's us. And I'm saying us because I'm guessing if you're listening to this, that there's a good chance that you are a determined dream chaser like me. You've probably got a vision of your ideal life and you want to do whatever it takes to make it happen, including pushing yourself, pushing your stress levels, pushing your knowledge, your time, your talents, your bank account, your endurance, all of it, pushing it all to the very limit until you get closer to your end goal. See, I think the type of person that we naturally are is the main driving force behind why we do it to ourselves, because we can't help it. You know, it's in our blood. And even if you try and ignore the sensible voice in your head, you know, the one telling you just let it go, take it easy, Take the safe route, get a normal full-time job, make life simple for yourself. You just can't. It's impossible. Trust me. I have tried. I have tried numerous times. And I'll be honest with you, after a really tough couple of years, personally and professionally, I was so close to giving up and just throwing the towel in. Mainly because the economy wasn't helping. It's an utterly depressing outlook for all small businesses, especially last year. This year has been really difficult. I can see it getting a lot better. It is just riding out the storm. Things need to settle. People need to have more money in their pockets, and we just have to get through it. But, it's been hard. And I've often felt like, Jack and Rose from Titanic, a bit where the scene towards the end, the ship's going down and they're in the ocean and she's on that plank of wood and he's holding on to her, he's in the water. Well, honestly, I felt like both of those at the same time. Half of me was in the water like Jack. I was just like ready to free myself from the handcuffs of being self-employed, desperate to let go because I've just got no energy left to hang on anymore. And I was ready. I was ready to float away from the pain, the torture of trying to survive. And then the other half of me was Rose. And luckily, she's the half of me that always wins. She's the strong one, the fighter. No offence to Jack. But, she's the one that is grabbing onto my dreams with both hands. She's holding them tight, refusing to let them go and sink to the bottom of the ocean. And her voice is the one that wakes me up when I'm tired of fighting and my eyes are closing. And she's there like, Jack, or Joanne, wake up. Wake up, Joanne, showing me like that I'm still here, shaking me awake, telling me to fight. You're never going to be able to watch that film again now, are you, without thinking of me? I've probably just ruined it for you. But, she's a survivor. And luckily, she's the one who I always listen to when I'm feeling like that I can't go on working for myself anymore. Because, like Rose, I want to go till the end. I want to reach my goals and live a life I want. I want to make it to that old lady in her bed that she talks about, looking back on the wonderful life that I've lived. And more importantly, the life that I've lived the way I wanted to live it. So enough of the analogy, you understand what I mean. Maybe you can relate to that battle and maybe you felt torn between giving up and carrying on. And again, the fact that you're listening to this tells me that your Rose is also the stronger half of you too. My Jack, he very nearly won not too long ago. And I actually went to apply for a part-time job where I live, just so that I could scale back Vintage Twee and focus on her handmade hustle so I can get it fully established, because I've never really felt like I can have every sort of waking moment that I've got to put into it, because I've always got this other business that I need to keep going financially in the background. So I filled out 90% of the application form and everything, it was doing something similar to what I used to do many, many years ago, working with vulnerable people in like a creative capacity. So it was a perfect job for me, to be fair. It really was. And I was pretty sure that I could get an interview because I was probably overqualified for it. But I felt so miserable as I was doing it, like utterly miserable. It didn't excite me. I just stopped filling it in. I just completely stopped filling it in because it didn't feel right. There's this lady who me and my daughter see on our walk to nursery every single morning. And she works at a local law firm. I've seen her in there doing paperwork and admin. And my 4-year-old, she always says to me, "Oh, there's that sad lady, Mummy." Because she just looks like she's a lamb going to slaughter every single day. And she looks so unhappy. And I've been in her shoes. I felt like that. And I don't ever want to feel like that again, especially not now in my 40s. Maybe I wouldn't feel like that, but I wasn't willing to take that chance, quite frankly. Because that lady just serves as a stark reminder to me of what it is that I don't want from my life. I don't want to feel like that again. And maybe she is really happy. Maybe she loves where she works and she just looks a bit miserable walking every day. But, I made a judgment there. But I'm just illustrating the fact that this person stuck in this corporate job, in my eyes, made me realise that it's not what I want for me. So I decided that I was going to find a better way to make Vintage Tree work for me, so I could run it alongside her handmade hustle, and make enough money to keep me going while I built my coaching business up. So that's what I've decided to do. And Rose stepped in and she saved the day just in time. Because the truth is, like I said, I think entrepreneurship, it's either in your bones or it's not. And it is most definitely in mine, and I suspect that it's in yours too. But as well as it being in our bones, there are other reasons, perhaps more personal ones to us, that motivate us to take such a leap after a certain age and to go and start a business. And you'll all have your own reasons. We've got practical ones, like perhaps you want more money eventually. Who doesn't? At the end of the day, we're not doing it for fun, really, are we? We want to go on holidays, we want to experience things, and we need money to do it. Maybe you want the flexibility to work around other commitments, such as young children or family members, and you want to be able to choose your own hours. A lot of women feel quite limited when it comes to what they can actually do when you've taken a career break to bring up your kids. You've been out of the game, physically and mentally, for a number of years. And even if you've worked before you had kids and you wanted to get back into the same role again, the chances are it's going to be a lot more difficult for us because we've been off the working scene for a while. It's actually something that really annoys me, and it's often a discussion that I have with my friends about, how the professional opportunities to mothers, like wanting to return to work after kids, are limited. You've got this whole group of women who are ready to go, and unfortunately there's just not as much out there for them as there should be. Companies, they're not keen on employing psychologists that can only work 10 till 2 Monday to Thursday because they've got to pick the kids up and the kids are off on a Friday. That's my situation, or whatever. And yes, there are more flexibility these days with opportunities, but what do you do in the school holidays? You get yourself a job that you're happy in. You get 13 weeks off a year. No, of course you don't. That's how many weeks schools are off. Most companies will give you 4 weeks if you're lucky. So what do you do for the other 9 weeks? A close friend of mine, she's got her own business. She's a really good friend of mine. She was talking to me about a job that she applied for with the NHS a while ago. And she's got a background in medical research, really clever lady, so capable, knowledgeable. And she hasn't worked for around 6 or 7 years, like when her son was born. She didn't even get an interview for this job with all her experience. And we were talking about how this gap in your career, which inevitably will be there for a certain period of time if you choose to raise a family, it really does affect your ability to get back in the game, doing what it is you used to do. And it's so annoying. I noticed it when I was doing the application I mentioned before. Now, my last job finished in 2009 and I started Vintage Tree in 2010. So where it says on that bit where it says list all your previous employment, even I was thinking, God, that was a long time ago. 2009, it looks like there's this massive gap, even though it says on the page before that I'm self-employed and I have been since 2010. I was just looking at it thinking, gosh, was it that long ago, 2009, that I was in the working world as such, working for other people. So to a stranger who doesn't know you, you can see why they'd either disregard your application or choose someone who's got more recent experience. It's natural, I guess. It doesn't mean that person may be better or more suited to the job, but that's just the way that it rolls. And it's frustrating. And I think we reach a certain age when we've got these commitments that we've had in our past, that they're not as fierce. We maybe have got a little bit more time, or we've found our drive again to start working, but we just can't find anything that we want to do and that excites us. And I think that is one of the main reasons why we end up going it alone. Because why should we settle doing something that doesn't make us happy when it's finally our time? We're finally able to concentrate on us and get back in the working game again. And I think that's how a lot of businesses are born. Small businesses are born, especially when people, especially women, they're over a certain age. I think, you know, for Vintage Twee, for me, it arose under many different circumstances, which I talk about in my very first podcast episode. So if you've not listened to this already, go back and check it out, because it tells you exactly why and how I started Vintage Twee when I was 27 years old. But I know that the main reason that I started Her Handmade Hustle is so that I could make it work for me and fit around my commitments now. And I'm sure a lot of you might be able to say the same for your businesses too. Then there are personal motivations, and these are going to be totally unique to you, and they'll be your driving force. You know, the personal motivations of why you start a business are the reasons, you know, that are keeping you awake at night. It's that fire in your belly. It's the ones that keep you focused on succeeding. And they could be absolutely anything. And you'll know what your own reasons are for doing this. You know, they'll be completely personal to you. The reasons why I started Her Handmade Hustle when I hit 40, well, firstly, because I wanted more for myself and my family. I just felt I've got so much more to offer to other women who are trying to do what I did 14 years ago, creating a life that they love. And I want to share it. I want to feel useful again. You know, I want to feel able to reconnect with the person-focused side of my background, which is where I help people. That's what I did. It's a different set of skills to what I use now as a stationer when I'm making things all day. And I love it. I love crafting. Of course I do. It's what I've done for a long time. It's a great outlet for me as well, but I feel like there's just something missing, and that's why I've gone back down into this road of helping people. Secondly, because I can't bear the thought of just doing something to pay the bills, as I mentioned before. It just utterly depresses me. I want to make myself proud, and I want to get my confidence back and prove to myself that I can do it. And thirdly, I'm not a quitter. I am definitely not a quitter. No one in our family quits. I want to show my daughter that you can do anything that you put your mind to, and I truly believe that. I really do. And I want her to see that if you work hard and you stay focused and you're determined as hell, you will achieve whatever you want. And that goes for you too. So we've looked at why we throw ourselves into the stress of self-employment, our motivations, the realities of starting a business later on in our working life. But how do we actually overcome these challenges and make sure that we don't quit or give up, especially when things just seem a little bit helpless and at times you just feel like there's nothing else you can do to make it work? I know, I've been there. So how do we power through those feelings? Because they're going to come. So I think there's a couple of important factors at play here, which we need to make sure they're monitored carefully if we're going to get our, just make sure that we're not going to get our confidence knocked. Because first of all, like with any sort of new venture, you have to make sure that you're flexible. And I think it's very easy to start a business and say, this is what I want to do, especially when we're, again, later on in life, we think, right, this is what I've always wanted to do and I'm going to do it. And that's fine. You have to try it, of course. But if something's not working, whether it's not selling, you're not enjoying it, or you're not getting great feedback, you have to be kind of open to the idea that you've got to change it up or you won't survive. Because, ultimately there's no point in flogging a dead horse. You do have to be 100% honest with yourself and ready to mix it up if nothing is happening. There's sometimes I come up with ideas for work and I think they're the best ideas in the world and I can't wait to get them out there and show everybody. And when I do, it's like nothing. Nobody likes them. Nobody buys them. And I've spent weeks, sometimes months developing products and nobody likes them. And I'm thinking, what am I doing wrong? But rather than take it personal, I'll change it up and I'll try something else. And normally that works. But if you're not willing to do that, then your business will never take off because you'll always kind of be doing exactly what it is that you want to do, which is fine, but it also has to be what other people want from you as well. So secondly, another thing you have to keep in check is your self-belief. You're not going to get anywhere without it. You just won't. It's all you have when you run your own business because everything is down to you. And without self-belief, you haven't got a business, trust me. We also need to remember there is one really powerful tool in our toolbox that we have above everything else that we can reach for to help us overcome the challenges and the insecurities that we face in our 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever, when we're starting a new business. And that is our experience, because we've got it. We've got it in abundance. We've got loads of it. You might be thinking, oh, okay, yeah, I do have a lot of experience, but I don't know the first thing about starting a business. I haven't got any experience in that. I can't do it. Well, for all the mothers out there, let me cast your mind back to that day that your first child was born, or your only child, if you're me. When they sent you home from hospital with this tiny, fragile human being that you were expected to keep alive, weren't you, for 18 years, and then you can hand over the baton to them and say, do it yourself, look after yourself. You don't know what you're doing. You've got no clue. You've got absolutely no idea how you're going to get through the next hour, let alone the next 18 years. I mean, Jesus, I remember thinking when I got home, what have we done? We sat there in the lounge with this sleeping baby at that point and in the car seat, and none of us wanted to touch her. And we just looked across the room and we were like, well, she's asleep. Don't move her. Do not disturb her. Don't get up. Don't go to the toilet. Don't creak a floorboard. Just, she's asleep. Leave her. And I was crying, and I just kept thinking, how am I expected to look after this child? And I'm sure every mother can relate to that feeling, because it is so overwhelming. But we do it. We find a way to figure it out. There's no manual, there's no handbook, like they say. The baby's crying. So we try one of three things. Well, I did anyway. Feed it. We change it. We try and get it to sleep. One of them's going to work. And it's the same for you when you start a business. You've got to try things to find out what works. I remember at 2, 3 in the morning on the sofa trying to sleep with this baby next to me in a little Moses basket. And I was on Google looking up things, Looking back now, I wouldn't have bothered, because it's a natural part of having a new baby. You just don't know what to feel. You don't know what to do. So you Google it. Do the same for your business. Google it to learn. Ask people for help, like you would if you had a baby. Use their experience to guide you and help you navigate your way through it. And hold your hand until you feel confident enough and ready to let it go and do it alone. Because it doesn't just happen. Same when you have a baby. When you start a business, you have to live it to learn it. Just like when you're a parent. And even if you haven't got direct experience and you never started a business before, you've got a hell of a lot of life experience that's going to come into play, trust me. When we get older, our instincts, they're sharper. Your bullshit detector is more finely tuned, isn't it? You care more about yourself and you care less about what others think of you. Your communication skills, they're at their peak. Your verbal ability and your vocabulary, it improves with age. And these are all essential skills for entrepreneurs. And I also read that it explains why we seem to really enjoy a crossword or a word search when we get older, which is really random. It's so true, isn't it? I found myself doing a word search the other day. It was really random. Or maybe I'm just bored while I'm off. I don't know. But we're more open, we're more honest, we're more conscientious. We've got more practical skills. When you think about it, really, we've got so many life skills that we can put into play when we run a business. We know how to manage money, we pay bills, we budget. When you run a business, you have to wear many hats. When you're older, you've got used to multitasking all the time. Numerous times a day, you're doing loads of different things. And we've got a lot of skills that only come when you have experience. And that only comes with age. One of my favourite quotes is from a lady called Sarah Blakely. And she says this, she says, everyone should hire working mothers. They are put in crazy situations all of the time and they're forced to problem solve. They are some of my most resourceful employees. And I love that because it's so true. If you can manage being a parent, you can run a business, trust me. So I'm just going to tell you a funny story before I wrap this podcast episode up, because it's about experience and speaking of experience, as it always makes me smile, and I think of it a lot actually. It always makes me laugh. And it was when I was about probably 12 years old, and I was having a chat with my mum, and I told her that I wanted to write a book, and I still do. If I'm 100% honest with you, it's on my bucket list. My grandma said to me once, probably around the same age, she said to me, "I can see your name in print one day, Joanne." And I'll always remember that. And I think, I'm going to prove you right, Grandma. I'm going to have a book published one day. Don't know what about, don't know what on, but I'm going to do it. Anyway, I digress. So, yeah, I said to my mum, "I want to write a book, Mum." And she said, "Oh, that's a really good idea, Joanne. Yeah, love that idea. Well, what's it going to be about?" Well, I mean, I had no bloody idea at this point. I just said I wanted to write a book. So I thought about it, and I said to her, I think I'm going to write about how to get a boyfriend. Now, bearing in mind, I was 12, obviously never had a boyfriend, so I didn't have a clue what I was talking about. And my mum being my mum, she's just so kind, and she was very encouraging, but she was also very direct at times. She had quite a sharp tongue. And she said to me, "Well, that's a really good idea to write a book, darling. But don't you think maybe you should have had some experience in having a boyfriend before you can write about it?" I remember just feeling like so deflated that I'd told her that I wanted to write this book and what it wanted it to be about. And she just said to me that it was pretty much a bad idea. So I stormed off to my room to prove her wrong, and said that I could write this book, I can do it, about how to get a boyfriend, when I hadn't even spoken to a boy before the age, what was I, 12? I probably hadn't spoken to any boys over the age of 8, if I'm honest. But needless to say, I didn't write that book. I dabbled in a few other topics, did a few, little short stories, but I did get a poem published once, actually, when I was about 13, 14, but that was it. But that was a good point in my life. I remember getting this poem published. I've still got that book. See if I can dig it out, find the poem. But I'm not giving that dream up. I am not giving that dream up whatsoever. But my point is this, with age comes experience. It just does. And that in itself is so powerful. And it's of massive use when it comes to starting a business later on in life. So next time you are doubting yourself and you're wondering if you can do it, if you can start a business and you can, think about everything that you want out of your life, just know that it is possible. It is 100% possible. Because why should we settle as we get older? We shouldn't. We should be going harder at our dreams. We should be chasing them faster. And that's what I am doing right now. And I think the fact that you're listening to this and you've made it to the end is exactly what you're doing as well. So I really hope you enjoyed listening to the episode today. If you did, please, please, please review it, rate it on whatever platform you're listening to. I know I always say it, but it's so important for me and I really appreciate everybody who does that. So thank you. We have got loads more episodes going to be upcoming. I'm recording them all while I'm off work at the moment, recovering from my op. So I've got ones on how to sell when you're not a natural salesperson. So if you do craft fairs and face-to-face sort of gigs, that might be really useful for you to listen to. I'm going to think about doing an episode on copycats. I've noticed that some people have mentioned that they're getting really frustrated when they're finding their work being copied and how to deal with that. So I thought talking about that would be a really good one. And then I'm also going to look at some more specific business topics to help as well, such as, how-tos, like how to optimize your social media profiles to ensure that you're getting people's attention and you're being found and you're making the most of them. And also we're going to look a little bit at keywords and keyword research to make sure that if you've got a platform, an online platform, whether it's Etsy, whether it's your own website, wherever you sell on, we're going to look at some keyword research as well and ways to make sure that you're getting all the information you need within your website content so that people can find you. Don't forget, you can visit my website, herhandmadehustle.co.uk, and there's loads of information on there all about me if you want to read about me. I'm sure you don't, but it's on there if you do. And also there are some lots of information about the coaching services that I offer. If anyone is interested in any one-to-one support and help for their business, you will be with just me. It's a tailored service where I will help you with anything that you're struggling with. So do have a look on there as well if that's something that you're interested in. I'll put the link to it in the show notes so you can head straight to it as well if you want to have a look. But again, thanks so much for listening. Really hope that this one helped you in some way if you were feeling a little bit wobbly about starting a business after the age of 40. And I will look forward to hearing some comments and recording the next episode soon. Take care.